listening?
Folks, welcome to the Craic'n Coachin podcast. This is the mini pod that we're going to break down, bringing up leg and areas. Today we're going to cover the back musculature. I think a really good one to start off with because a lot of people struggle to connect, I find, with their back and understanding the different. Again, it's a big, large surface area your back covers, but it covers the lats, the upper back, and there's a bit of intricacies and complexity involved in training those effectively. And if you don't know how to train each portion, it's going to be difficult. So we're going to dive into that today.
That is it. So we are definitely two people to talk about it. I believe we were in the same boat for a long time where we had a pretty under average, below average, back, and we've definitely brought those areas up. Something shocking. I know I have, and I've definitely seen pictures of you. Would you agree?
I would say it's improved. I'd say it's definitely still a lot of room for improvement. I would say it's probably, to me, still a lagging area, but I understand and know how to bring that up, so I can speak to that a little bit. I think it's something I have focused in on very recently, is the actually feeling the connection to training your back muscles as opposed to just pulling for the sake of it. Like, really find that connection, something I've really been honing in on as of late, and it's definitely helped.
That's it. It's definitely another big fucking part of weightlifting that people overlook. You know, if you're pissing in the dark and you hear water, you're probably on target. Like, I think sensation's a big one there, and the people just completely bypass it because they're like, oh, yeah, it's not scientific enough. But anyway, let's jump into that there. So I have set this up as a bit of categories. So we have different parts of the back to start, starting from the top down to the bottom. We have our traps. We have rear delts, which again, people don't really see it as a massive part of the back, but it definitely adds to it from a bodybuilding standpoint. And I understand that it is part of the shoulders, but I would definitely put it in the category of back training because it gets a lot of volume through back training. We have our rhomboids, we have our lats, and then we have our erectors. Anything I've missed? I know we could definitely dive into that there a bit more specifically, but that is the bare bone basics of how to split your back training up relatively. Anything to add, Emmett?
No, absolutely. I would say let's start with the lats first and foremost.
Yeah, so with our lats, we're usually looking at vertical and horizontal pulls. So to break these movement patterns up, I have any vertical pull. This can be a single arm vertical pull. Vertical pulls are just anything really overhead coming down. So we have a single arm, we have overhand grip, we have our underhand grip. So those are probably some of the more effective ones for training. Our lats for training are, especially when it comes to those lower lats as well, lower lat fibers, those overhand positions. And then I would say some of the most effective ones for training our lats are probably going to be those overhand or those vertical single arm pull downs, which I think me and you sort of agreed are definitely up in the S tiers there.
Yeah,
Anything
I think single arm when training lats, I found with majority of people, you can find that connection a lot better, and it's probably due to the alignment, like in how your lat fibers run. So a lot of people, when they think of a traditional lat pull down but struggle to connect with their back, it's because they're not taking their lat through its full range of motion. So you don't want overhead where you're elevated too much, because that's going to take bring a lot of upper back musculature into it. You almost want sort of position,
even shoulder at a certain point as well.
Yeah, so like your lats are going to really insert just around the armpit, and then you're bringing them from like almost to the insertion to the origin down almost in towards your hip, where it almost like it runs to. So running in that path, finding a good connection in there, I think it's always easier to line up, find that alignment, that like through a single arm plane.
Yeah, so I would say two more common problems in that movement as well are probably going to be shoulders. decompression. So making sure that, like you said there, there's only a certain range of motion. Like we actually mentioned the last podcast there, range of motion is a big one here. Like we only have a certain amount of range in where our lats can actually work to, and outside of that, there other muscles take over. We sort of set them up to lose tension, and it's probably where we're losing a lot of bang for our buck when it comes to lat training. Another big one as well, to dive into the more specifics, is a bit of external rotation, actually trying to drive the elbow slightly out and get the arm in line. A lot of people, whenever you see them do lat pull downs, you'll see them almost driving out the way. It's like almost like a rear delt pull down. So we need to make sure that, like you say there, it is aligning. And my last pet peeve is if we ever see that single arm sort of setup with the bench, the supporting bench, is people actually crunching down into it rather than leaning off, because they're actually limiting their range of motion and their ability to actually use the lat.
Yeah. So with that crunching aspect, you're not actually going to be able to get the lat fully short. It might feel like you are, but you're like bringing that origin, that distance between the origin and insertion closer together. So you're actually losing some of the range of motion you would by just keeping a nice, almost upright, neutral torso.
Yeah. We'll quickly fire through the rest of these movement patterns, and then we'll get stuck into some problems that people have, because that's probably where we're going to give you the most education, really. So outside of all our vertical pulls, we jump into the horizontal pulls. So anything that's sort of traveling towards us in a straight line. This can be, again, single arm, this can be overhand, and this could be a neutral grip as well, depending on what we're trying to work here. Single arm is probably most useful for, again, training the lats. When it comes to our overhand and our neutral grip, is probably going to be more directed towards the upper back, and whether you actually choose a very strict overhand position or a bit of a neutral grip, or maybe in between, it's going to be more dictated on your overall actual biology of how you're set up and your physique, and what way your scapula travels, and where you find comfort, really, where you find that range of motion.
Yeah, actually finding the connection, I think, in your lats maybe differ person to person. So don't be afraid to maybe adjust until you find that sweet spot. I definitely think single arm for a horizontal plane as well as vertical, again, is going to help line up a bit better. I would normally 9 times out of 10 be using single arm variations when training lats.
My only so I would be in that camp. My camps are for lat training, it is all single arm, and then for anything to do with like rhomboids, traps, rear delts, it's actually dual. So lats are unilateral, and the rest of it are usually bilateral movements. Mainly because it's almost impossible. I'm sure some idiots fucking set it up in some way to do it, but it's almost impossible to do like a horizontal overhand wide grip row single armed. You just lose all the stability, you lose the lack of ability to actually brace yourself against something as well. So having both arms moving in uniform is probably our best bet there. Jumping into our next movement pattern, which is probably going to be more directed towards the rear delt, which is going to be shoulder extension / abduction. So anything in a sort of straight arm, or even if we do sort of see that upper back or that wide grip row, that's probably where we're going to see that benefit right there. Jumping in from there, we've got our hinge, which is going to be more down towards the erectors, and then finishing off with a shrug. Whether it is, I would sort of get a mixture of them in, but again, not a lot of people program direct trap work. They probably get a lot of it through, same again as the rear delt, in their rows. So shrugs can be vertical, they can be vertical via up, they can be vertical actually down as well, decompression of the shoulders, and then we can get like a horizontal, like a Kelso shrug as well. But let's jump into our problems. So one of the biggest problems I definitely see is just not understanding the functions of the muscles, and I'll throw this one over to Emmett because it seems like he's quite interested in this one.
So start with lats. Function of the lats. is almost like depression of the shoulder joint. So you want to bring the shoulder joint down, and it your lat works to extend your upper arm as well. So this extension here, only up to a point though, not overhead, but almost. What would you say in terms of degrees here? Not directly 180 degrees overhead.
Yeah. Be like 125 to like 140. A good rule of thumb is I think it was back skimmy this one, but it was the bowl. It's like you imagine that you're holding a bowl and you lift it overhead, and at some point your shoulders are going to take over. But that's sort of finding out exactly how far your lats will actually go before the shoulders take over.
Just the point until your shoulders start to elevate. That's probably where your end range of motion is for your lats. The function of your lats, depressing the shoulder joint and extending that upper arm. A good cue to find here is just your elbow controls the change of direction. Pull your elbow down in towards your quad or your hip. That would be my biggest cue for training your lats effectively. So to distinguish between lats and upper back, just remember, for your lats, elbow controls the change of direction. For your upper back, shoulders control the change of direction.
Fair. In terms of, let's swiftly move into, like, I think that a lot of the mid to upper back can be covered with a heavy and controlled row. Would you agree there? Like a wide grip row, like a T-bar, for example.
I think you'll get very far by getting good at rowing for training your upper back. T-bar row, chest supported T-bar row is a really great way of ensuring that it's the upper back that's getting the majority of the work, because you don't have to hinge over and use a lot of your maybe erectors and stuff. So that's going to be a great one for passing the upper back musculature. So yeah, for the upper back, I would say T-bar row, if you have access to one, is a great one. Another one, if you have access to, the prime extreme row, is one I find I connect extremely well to. But the same idea, if you have a chest support, then you're able to just use the function of your upper back, which is to protract and retract your shoulder blades, drive those elbows back behind the body so you can bring the shoulder blades together, and then making sure that you're fully protracting as well on the way down. I think that's something that a lot of people miss by just jerking the weight and thinking about pulling the weight back, but not thinking about actually taking their upper back musculature through its full range.
Yeah, carrying on for 2 points that you had there, I actually dislike the extreme row. Mainly for the point that I just don't think I've spent enough time on it to get good at it, and it's sort of jumping back to what you had said about skill acquisition. I don't think I've spent enough time to get skilled at it, and that's why I dislike it. I definitely do need to put it back in the program and get it going. What was the other point you said there? Fuck. Sorry, brain is absolutely mush tonight, but yeah, we'll leave it at that.
The chest.
Anyway.
Talking about the chest support, again.
And another brilliant way to, sorry, I actually remember exactly what it was. Carrying through a full range of motion on one body part is an amazing way to continuously have healthy joints, healthy muscles, healthy mobility on the other side as well. Actually carrying through, that is going to open up the chest, it's going to open up the front delt, it's actually going to make sure that everything functions the way it should when it comes to our pressing, etc. You're not actually going to end up with as many shoulder problems, like joint problems in general, and that's probably where we fall into injuries most, is you'll find that one side of your body has a very overpowering muscle that is not allowing you to travel in the correct range of motion or mobility.
Yeah,
but that's just actually sprinkling.
In essence, if you want a big chest, make sure you train your upper back.
Yeah, exactly. Other body part functions, shrug again would be compression.
It's almost that elevation of the scapula almost. I do love a kelso shrug. So the way I use it, I don't directly perform a shrug as my main movement, but I would perform, say for example, a T-bar row, take that to failure, and when I lose the ability to row fully, I will just then, I still have an ability to retract the shoulder blades, so I'll do that and get a bit more out of my traps with a kelso shrug. So beyond failure, I'll like finish with kelsos as a nice little extender of the set for like an upper back row.
Yeah, so I would just go back to your point on the previous episode there of just saying that it's not even beyond failure. Like, you're not training beyond failure. You're actually going in to train almost a different muscle, even though it's the same sort of, like, it is more upper trap than anything. You know, you're trying to get more from that there. You're not actually, you know, it's not someone spotting you through a T-bar row.
Yeah, I think mechanical drop set would be the term you could use for that. So you're training more broadly the upper back, and then once you lose the ability to do so, to completely row, you still have a bit left with retraction, and you can get a bit more out of directly training the traps that way. So it's a nice little one to extend the set. Again, if you don't have access to a T-bar, or an extreme row, like a good chest supported row in the gym, then you can always revert to using a bench and dumbbells.
Yeah,
it's going
the
to
dumbbell
change
chest support row is...
It's great movement. It's going to be a bit heavy and not probably short in range as you pull up, which is maybe not as ideal, but still it's still a great option to have.
God, if you're like, I loved it. Like, if anyone follows us on Instagram, you've probably seen the back and forward of the optimal ab movement. Like, I'm in a gym all day, so I get to play a lot more. Don't be afraid to like DIY things and play about with them. It's where you're actually going to find the perfect sort of setups. And talking about that there as the sort of not being the perfect profile, I actually, whenever I was running that there as a full exercise in my program, I was jamming 2 plates underneath the further side towards my bum, which was getting me more into a horizontal plane, which I actually found much better for the upper back in terms of the way it was moving, etc.
Yeah, I think you can find a really nice stretch. I think that when I started actually connecting to my back and actually finding it, if you like, that upper back chest supported dumbbell row was where I really started to experience that sensation of actually stretching my upper back muscles and feeling them work. Where before I'd done that, I'd never really felt that.
Mm-hmm. So our last 2 functions are probably going to be the rear delt and the erectors.
Yeah, so rear delts, again, they're going to be worked through our upper back rows. Predominantly, you're going to get some rear delts there. If you want to directly isolate your rear delts, can be good for, again, getting the full cap shoulder. You want to train your rear delts, but also for, I think, mobility and shoulder function. Having some direct isolation rear delt working can be very good tool to use. So, in terms of training your rear delts, how would you go about that?
I would go cross cable and split. Actually, I don't really know the word for it, just cross cable rear delt fly, I guess. So cross cable, holding on nice and tight and driving out. Big thing for any sort of shoulder training like that, where we are like adducting the shoulder and we are at full length of the arm. It is actually utilising that to our benefit, using a lighter weight and drawing the big circle is always the key I use. So if I'm the pinpoint and we're looking down on me, then my arms are going to be drawing the biggest possible circle like that it can do.
Yeah, I think for rear delts, you don't want to retract the shoulder blades, don't you? Because then you're going to be bringing more upper back into it. If you want to directly isolate the rear delts, as you said, like that cue of pushing your hands away, and stopping beyond that point of getting into retraction. So I think like that dual rear delt cable fly, great option. A rear delt machine, like a reverse pec deck, decent option as well.
Mm-hmm. I think that key of pushing away is going to be very helpful for our beginners there, because it does limit our ability to pull our scapula round the rib cage. So actually driving ourselves away and keeping it in that position and just letting the arms move is,
I think
I don't think we can get much better.
The biggest mistake that I see probably is too much retraction and bringing the arms back too far. So you almost want to just reach a point where the arms are like parallel to each other. You don't want to be come to a point where the shoulder blades are coming together, because then you're taking the rear delts away from it. The rear delts are a very small muscle group, so it doesn't take a lot of load and it doesn't take as much range of motion as you think.
A big unspoken rule of thumb for me is, and a lot of people do it or even speak about it, don't be afraid to fucking touch the muscle whenever it's going through a full range of motion or any range of motion, because you are going to feel whenever it's fully shortened and you're going to understand it a wee bit better. So when it comes to the rear delt, like as you're pulling along, even if you were to do it right now while you're watching, follow along, folks, with the podcast. We put our hands on our rear delt here, up and over the top, and then as we extend out, we can feel it shortening and getting smaller, getting denser. At a certain point, it doesn't get any smaller. If you are still travelling back at that point, then we just assume that it is the scapula taking over.
The thing is, because your rear delts are a lot smaller than your upper back then can very quickly take over if they're being asked to, essentially, so you don't want to bring in too much range of motion.
Yeah, this happens actually on all three parts of the delt, because we have the rhomboids there that are very fast to take over. The rhomboids and probably like lower chops are very fast to take over the rear delt. The chops are very fast to take over the side delt, and then the chest for the front delt again.
Yeah.
Like, you're so close in correlation to such a big muscle part that's very dominant that it's so easy for them to take over, and that's why we see people with poor delts in their physique. That's why I've seen a poor delt for a long time.
I think arm path's a big one for training back, isn't it? Like for lads, obviously we've gone on into a bit maybe too complex language when you're talking about depressing the shoulder joint and extending the upper arm. What does that actually mean? Essentially, just keep the arm, the torso tight to the body when you're performing a lat best row, and when you're performing an upper back row, you're driving the arm away from the body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's straightforward enough, and that's it. Like, if we look at training the upper back and we look at training the lat, there's literally 4 movements, and it is going to be, it's all to do with your bias and what you prefer, but it's going to be a vertical overhead pull down, it is going to be a horizontal pull, and it's going to be the single arm variations of both of those. So I would use the overhand wider grips on the vertical pull, on the horizontal pull for upper back, and then when it comes to my lats, I would go single arm, and I would pull that elbow in nice and tight so that's in line with my midline, pulling through, like you said, and then again with that horizontal.
I think a nice little option as well is a pullover, particularly a cable pullover. It can be a good option because it aligns really well. Like if you struggle to connect with your lat, getting a good pullover maybe at the start of the movement for like activating and feeling your lat, or again, because it's typically going to be a bit heavier in that lengthened position, depending on how you're performing it off a cable, you can definitely bias it in a way, but typically more heavier in a lengthened position, so it's good towards the back end of like a pull or upper session. But then if you want to activate, like use it as an activation or turn on the lat, you can just step back a bit from the cable, and it's going to make it heavier then towards the shortened range, so it can be a nice option to use. So if you want to just train at the start of your session, just step out a bit further so it's heavier in that shortened range, and then if you're to perform it towards the back end of a session, just typically you want to be heavier in the stretch. But I think it's a nice option too that you probably forget, you don't actually always think of it.
No, I have it there. I do have it there as a primer. I personally would not use it for under heavy load, but a brilliant tool in the toolbox for getting stuck into some back training. Last function is probably just the erectors.
Yeah, so erectors, heavy hip hinge. You're going to be working your erectors, whether that is your deadlift variation that you're performing, or a bent over row, because the erectors are obviously working to stabilize you in that hinged over position. It can limit the stimulus we get from our upper back because of that, because you're using a lot of your erectors. There's a lot of
in that bent over row.
Yeah. You're going to get more of an overall back stimulus, but in terms of isolating either lats or upper back, it's maybe not going to be the best option. But for your overall density in your erectors, it's a good one to have in your arsenal, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say the only one we're probably missing there for that function is probably hyper extension as well.
Oh
Trying
yeah.
to use something like that there, like a GHD or something, to actually directly get erector work for anyone that possibly has, well, maybe underlying issues there, or just a poor ability to build erectors through hinging.
Yeah, like if you really really struggle as well, with a deadlift variation, again, there's no must do exercises there, so like you can get a lot out of maybe a 45 degree, using one of those hip extensions. If you have a back extension machine, could be good for some erector stimulus as well. But I think overall for that back density, you don't want to be missing out on your erectors. Probably something I neglected for a long period of time too, and just focusing on lats, upper back, neglecting the erectors a bit. And then there's another thing: people think that they should not ever feel their upper back or their lower back moving, or they have negative connotations towards their lower back feeling it. Again, like if you're performing a deadlift variation, you think, I feel this in my lower back. I mean, your lower back to some degree is going to be working there. If you're performing a bent over row, same thing. Your
Not even
erectors
some degree, a large degree, it's going to be working.
yeah. So like, it's not necessarily always a bad thing to feel your lower back being stimulated.
Huge difference between a pump and pain.
Yeah.
Huge difference there.
Yeah, like if your erectors are working in a T-bar row, for example, like a chest support T-bar row, you're probably coming into too much extension. You're not training your upper back properly. But if you're performing a hinge variation, you should to some degree feel your erectors working. I think if we cover mistakes for each, for lats,
so I've
common mistakes,
got that
we've got
lined up next to.
We've got a couple, like we mentioned, rotation of the torso, too much rotation, which is actually losing your ability to get the muscle fully short or taking it through its full range. Too much elevation in that overhead position, bring in too much scapula into it. It's going to be taken away from your lats and keeping tension on your lats. Poor alignment, again we covered that basically as well. How you set up the exercise is going to determine your alignment and your exercise selection. I think always single arm variation is always a good play there, and that pretty much covers, I think, all the mistakes when it comes to training your lats.
Yeah, so this sort of, I'll give a bit of an umbrella here for sort of problems that you're gonna that are gonna occur. And one of the biggest ones, with whether it's lats or upper back, is that I see so often, and you've hit the nail on the head there a couple of times, but we just haven't directly hit it in a nice wee fucking nailed down, is just shifting the load from the midsection or the rib cage. When we're training our back, our midsection and our rib cage are going to stay exactly where they are. They're not going to move. Everything is going to come around them. Remember that every muscle is attached to that rib cage, and all we're doing is using that barrel to pull everything around it.
Yeah, I love the cue of wrapping your lat around your rib cage, as well, especially on the eccentric portion of a row. Thinking about really wrapping your lat around that rib cage can be a really great way of getting into a good stretch position.
This is the exact same when it comes to upper back too. Again, I'm just speaking on this because upper back was definitely a big lacking part for me as well at one point, and being able to set that rib cage in space where it is, whether it is a bent over row or even a chest supported row like you were saying. How many people do you see hyperextending towards the end, where they're lifting that chest up, they're fucking driving it right back, and they're wondering why they're feeling it in their lower back? A lot of the time it is down to just setting that fixed position, allowing whether it is going to be the elbow or the shoulders to work the way they're supposed to be working and get the most out of it. And again, like you said, maybe even finishing off with that Kelso shrug, especially with that mid row, it's going to make a big difference there.
If you're using the chest supported row, use the chest support. Otherwise, you're defeating the purpose there a bit. Mistakes with upper back, I find, usually is this lack of protraction and getting into the lengthened position. So people have no issues pulling back and retracting the shoulder blades, feel them come together, but that protraction element is almost missing or not considered a lot of the time. So allowing your shoulder blades to come forward, and get into a nice stretch position, you'll feel that as well. Like the sensation there, I think, is quite prominent.
Again, huge difference between you, the machine traveling, and you doing the right thing. I'm trying to get them aside here, but if you let everything collapse and let your chest collapse and let everything fall forward comparatively to keeping the chest tall and letting, again, to use that cue you were using, letting everything wrap around the rib cage, big difference there of what you're going to get out of it.
True. So this is again probably a mistake I've used. It's just over fixating on the protraction element to the point where that proud sternum, you don't want your sternum to collapse, you want your sternum to maintain proud whilst also getting the scapula fully protracted, so you can bring your shoulder blades forward without collapsing the chest. You can keep that chest proud too.
While we're still on sort of the point as well of you saying that you're maybe not getting into that point, I think a big problem with back is our ability to use momentum from the lengthened or mid of a portion of the lift, because of course, as we do, whenever we look at hypertrophic like curves of our ability to build muscle, we always look at the lengthened being the best possible, but the thing that we don't actually realize is that in a strength curve, the mid is where we generate the most force. So it's so easy to, as soon as you get that movement, whether it is our single arm lat pull down, it is our T-bar row, it is our deadlift off the ground and into that mid is going to generate so much force, it's so much easier to throw the weight up into the shortened, not control it, and just let it come back down really fast again. It's probably why we're facing problems with injury, and we're facing problems with our lack of mobility and just our ability to see that back progress as well. As much as the shortened isn't always driving a hypertrophic response, it definitely is something to be said about having that control in that shortened and showing more density, showing more quality of muscle.
Yeah, I do think you can it's probably a lot more recently as well, where you can get lost in the weeds of lengthened training, and I know I definitely went down the rabbit hole of that in terms of, yes, there may be more benefits to bias in the lengthened range, but it doesn't mean you completely neglect the shortened range. You still want to be able to train a muscle throughout its full range. So I definitely neglected shortened range for like really biased and making that stretch position the primary objective. But as you said, it's about finding a balance, and train the muscle over its full range is always going to be the best idea.
That's straight into... Sorry, go ahead. I've just got...
Go ahead.
3 more points in my problems, and then I'm done here, and we can switch into the next one. But we'll just to carry on.
We'll go at the movements that you want to be doing, the S-tier movements, and having a look at that afterwards.
Yeah, I've got that lined up right away. So you're jumping on too fast. You're a teacher right now, so you are, instead of being a student.
Teach me.
Teach you. Understanding too well what you're trying to train. So exactly what you said there. You're focusing way too much on the specifics of the science based and the research, and you're missing the overarching basics and foundation. So as simple as you put it, you know what I mean, you're focusing way too much on that lengthened, you're not getting into the shortened, you're not actually doing the movement the way it's supposed to be done.
Missing the forest for the trees.
Boom, right there. Interesting enough one, don't think I spoke about enough, but overuse of the bicep when doing these exercises. Definitely something I focused on way too much at the very start. Didn't understand why my biceps were blowing up, but my back wasn't.
Too much elbow flexion. Of course, there's going to be a degree of biceps working. Keeping that arm a bit more extended and not flexing the bicep too much. I think pinky pressure is a good cue to use to take emphasis away from the elbow flexors, taking over and doing a lot of the work. So that's a nice little one that I've implemented as well. Yeah,
remembering that anything, we almost completely erase or take away the elbow joint in the forearm. Like that doesn't really exist anymore. That just floats and does what it does. We don't actually curl into ourselves.
I think that's why a pullover is so good as well, because you don't need the flex elbow really at all. You're keeping that that arm fully extended, so you can really bash your lats for that sort of movement without having biceps sort of contribute too much.
Yeah, I will definitely seem to be said for that rear delt fly as well. For just anything that is like a fully using the leverage of your arm without a ton of weight is going to be very helpful. I think leading into that as well is going to be your choice of attachment. Sometimes can be a big problem with back training, especially when I first started. You know, your close grip V bars were always just sitting there, and they were so easy to use, and you were definitely able to pull so much more with them, and you always wondered why your back wasn't growing. And again, they're just not really lining up well enough with the fibers.
Yeah.
And to take it off, programming could be the big problem here, the constant one. Personally, the way I program back is I like to drive sensation first. So like you said, something like a nice wee primer, get stuck into the meat and potatoes, and then finish off with whatever I've sort of got lying there, whatever things haven't been worked well enough, or whatever things I haven't allocated enough load or volume to. Yeah. Emma needs to go for another piss. Oh my god. You'd actually learn how to stop this. Maybe start finding something to do while Emma goes for a piss. If you can think of a number between 1 and 10 that I'm thinking in my head by the time Emma gets back, I'll buy you a top of perform. So just write it down in the comments while we're waiting. Between 1 and 10. God, this is actually such a long piss for him. He's usually quite fast.
I think the number in your head was 7.
7, you're wrong. That was 11. Right, move on.
Okay, mate. We're ready to
Right.
rock.
Let's get it. S-tier
Okay.
movements. Starting with the traps.
Chest supported T-bar row
Yep.
would be
Give me
S tier.
a more direct one. Give me something that's so specific to the traps. Kelso stroke. Are we agreeing on that?
A good calcium stroke, yeah. On using a chest supported T-bar row?
Yes. Yeah. And,
Okay.
well, what other way would you perform it?
Well, I mean, you could do a calcium stroke using a bench and dumbbells. You could do it really any chest support. You could do it any chest support row, but I think a T-bar specifically is my preferred. Like even on the prime extreme row, you can do calcium strokes, but probably doesn't line up as well to get into that retraction.
But like Emmett says, it has to be the mechanical job set. If you are, and I've seen people do this here, and it is, it's such a fucking cock tease. So it is. And this happened in Atlas. I don't know if you know Jack Daniels. You ever met him?
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah, Jack. Jack's a big guy. Jack's strong as fuck. Jack's hard to impress as well. Jack walks up to this kid. This kid's been like, Jack, would you spot me? Jack's like, yeah. He's standing up to the T-bar row and he sees 6 plates on it. He's like, holy fuck, here we go. Like, you seen Jack's eyes lit up. I'm standing there beside it being like, this is going to be some job if this kid gets this to move. He unhooks it. He's set up. He's strapped in, ready to go. And he just starts banging out calcium strokes. Jack's eyes just completely deflate and he's like, I fucking hate kids. Like, Jack is the ultimate unk. And he was just like, they don't know how to train properly. They're fucking terrible. Like, I was just like, oh god, that was so heartbreaking to watch. So yes, calcium shrug as long as it is on the back end of your T-bar row.
Although I would argue your man probably got a decent bit of output there from what he was looking to do if it was a trap specific movement there. But anyway,
I disagree. He didn't have any chops to work, so
yeah, I know it's. Well, we'll go with a calcium stroke.
Yep. Next
S
one I've
tier.
got is definitely rear delts.
I think a cable fly, a dual cable fly, preferably with cuffs. So a cuff cable fly, reverse fly, I think is a great option.
Yeah, I absolutely dislike the pack deck for it. I actually haven't found one where I've like connected well with it. I always feel like I'm traveling into the wrong plane, or I can't keep my, I don't know, something doesn't feel right.
It's tough
So I
to,
have
to
to
line
agree.
it up properly, I think. Like with the shoulder joint, depending on how you fit the pack deck, because it is like, I think with a cable you can probably adjust it more to suit your mechanics. But I think the prime reverse pack deck for rear delts is probably S tier. Just with that adjustability in terms of the profile, I think that's one that really does carry its weight. Prime reverse pack deck alongside a cable fly, I think the top two for me.
Yeah, I would just opt for the cable fly, and I think it's just mainly down to me. If you're drinking more water and you need to go for a piss, like we're gonna have a problem here, Emmett. Serious. You've got a one piss limit per podcast.
I'll be able to hold on.
But I
I'll
actually
stay
think
hydrated.
for me it's more down to arm length more than anything is the big problem. I just like most of them just don't really fit me too well. I think we'll agree with this one. Wrong boys, and we're probably gonna go both of us on the T-bar row. The T-bar row is just it. It is the S tier movement for all the above that we've just spoke about.
If you're just going broadly, upper back movements, T-bar row, absolutely
Smash.
up there. Prime extreme row,
Have you
absolutely up
have
there.
you got
The
a specific T-bar row that you just is the creme de la creme? What would you recommend to the viewers?
best one I've
Top three.
used, number one, is the Mega Mass, which is a new one. It works on a fixed path. It's really nice. I love the Pre-Core T-bar row. I think it's good. Number three, of course, I think headquarters have this one, is the Gym Lego.
Yeah, I actually can't pick between the Mega Mass and the Gym Lego. But again, I think I'm enjoying the Gym Lego so much because of skill adaptation to it. And the Mega Mass I've used twice, but it was gorgeous. Like
It's
it was
great.
like love at first sight.
It's great.
Like
Uh,
no fucking about, straight in, and it just worked perfectly. Did exactly what it needed to do.
If we're looking for upper back, but it's not necessarily S tier, there's a few movements you can maybe consider if you're really limited on equipment. I think overhand cable row can still be a decent option for your training your upper back. Maybe more of a mid tier exercise there.
Especially if we go chest supported, the only downsides that I would take it out of S tier is just the setup for a heavy weight can be quite hard sometimes, getting yourself into position with it,
Yeah.
creating that length.
I think an upper back pull down, one we didn't touch on, but you can perform a pull down to bias the upper back just by really emphasising the shoulder blades moving and just almost leaning back to the point where it almost becomes a bit of a high row.
Yeah,
Can be a nice
I
option for
definitely
upper
agree
back.
there. And you know, if you're stuck for time and you're having to maybe get everything in, and exercise selection is a massive one here, especially not having to move machines. You might be the dick that's take up a machine for 6 sets, but like, you know, 3 sets of your, you know, arched sort of upper back pull down getting into maybe like a underhand grip, a lateral pull down would be phenomenal for saving time.
Yeah. For lats, S tier, a good old single arm cable pull down, bench supported, I think is, highly accessible in any gym. Good resistance profile, alignment, you can line it up really well. So I think that's probably one of the best you can do, and most people have access to it. If you do have access to a knotless single arm row, that's probably the creme de la creme, but cable works equally well.
Yeah, so I don't think I have ever used anything else bar a cable for lat pull downs, so I don't really have an opinion here.
If you ever get access to using a knotless machine, you would like it.
What one are you
There's the-
talking about? Are you talking about the one with like the funky old handle, and as you pull through, are we talking about a horizontal lat row?
No, a vertical. A
No,
vertical
I do know
pull
what you're
down.
talking
I
about.
think. Yeah.
Elite had it.
Yeah, they would have done that old school Nautilus. Yeah, Nautilus Nitro. That one's great.
Yeah.
More modern ones, Citadel pull down I used recently. It was unbelievable. And then Prime have released a very similar one where it's chest supported, and it's through that vertical plane. I
Citadel.
think Jim Dog and Citadel. It's an Australian. It's an Aussie band. It's an Aussie brand. But it was doing the rounds, and it's in Ultraflex and Rotherham and stuff. It's a very, very good piece. But Prime released a similar one. I think Jim Dog have it.
I was going to say there that Nautilus one has been quote unquote ripped off, hasn't it, by the likes of Gym Shop, maybe.
There's definitely There's
the
definitely
paid
like
version of it.
knockoff ones, but again, they're probably not the worst either. But the Nautilus, it's hard to beat the old school Nautilus one. I would say that's S tier for vertical pull. For a horizontal, I love a again, single arm cable row. It's
Yeah.
also great, yeah. But I also
Seen you
love
using that chest supported Prime the other day.
that's amazing too. So like the Prime seated row, probably in terms of versatility, one of the best machines you can use for training your back, because you can train it as an upper back, you can train it for lats, you can do bilateral, unilateral, it's adjustable in terms of resistance profile. So for lats, I really liked it. I also love a hammer strength ISO row, but standing back off the machine, so the resistance drops off. That's a nice one for training your lats as well.
I have to argue against that, mate. I just can never fucking
Probably
never
too big
fell
for
in
it.
love with it. Nah, no. It does seem to work very well for the smaller headed men, though. I'll have to say that there. Connor McConnell seems to have a very good time on it. He seems to be fucking loving it. Nah, it's not for me. It just doesn't work. But I will say that Nautilus horizontal is phenomenal, and any rip off of it as well seems to be done quite well, because even if it's a plate loaded one, it seems to drop off very well as it sort of comes up and over that pivot.
Yeah, I mean, you can use a dumbbell. You can use a dumbbell, can't you, for a single arm dumbbell row? Probably
I do a
butchered
dumbbell row.
often, but can be a decent option too. It's actually an enjoyable one, I find. Probably not the most optimal, but
Yeah.
decent.
So I'm
It would be
kind
an-
of fighting that balance at the minute between still keeping a bit of bodybuilding in, and well, a lot of bodybuilding in, and trying to put in a couple of movements that are all more about sort of power output and trying to move something fast and aggressively. I guess I sent you the video the other day of the pendlay row. You're probably like, this is not helping his back row at all, but it wasn't really the point of it. That and a single arm dumbbell row are both in there for that main reason of just shifting weight as fast, as aggressively as possible. And our final one, mate, the S tier for erectors. I think we
Hip
could probably
hinge.
agree. Deadlift.
Yeah.
Bang.
Deadlift, but like to specify, I wouldn't be performing the conventional deadlift. It's not really going to take any muscle through a significant range of motion, or not going to do a great job of creating tension through a full range, because you're using so much. So many muscles are contributing. So I really like an RDL, or a stiff leg deadlift. Just a bit more range of motion there, and you can target specific points, take them through a greater range.
I don't know if mine gets labelled as a stiff leg. What would you say? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Is that how
Yeah.
you're Is that how you're looking to perform it?
Well, but I just look at what I'm getting from it, and I would say it's very dominant on the glute, hamstrings, erectors, and upper back. So it's definitely not conventional.
No.
I would label it as maybe like a high hip pull. I don't know. It's definitely where I'm strongest as well. I think a lot of people, I've been sort of drilling this with clients recently that have just come in person, and have had a different coach that taught them like a true conventional deadlift where it's like very squatty. And transitioning them over that their pulling power is so much more, and I believe it is, starting from like a muscle that's at like mid length, you're gonna pull so much harder from it.
Yeah. I think that covers a lot, mate, for back.
Yeah.
In summary, lats keep the elbow tight to the body, perform a movement in the vertical plane and the horizontal plane. Upper back, allow your shoulder blades to move through protraction, retraction. Chest supported is going to be good for really biasing the upper back musculature. If you want to emphasize traps, have a shrug in there, or even finish your rowing with some calcio shrugs. And then for erectors, have a heavy hip hinge of choice in your programming, and you won't go far wrong.
Yeah, spot on. Keep the momentum very limited. Make sure that your midsection and rib cage is fixed. That's all I've got. A nice wee top tip there as well. I'm very my Roman Empire is the rib cage sometimes. I just absolutely love it, but breathing is fucking massive with back training. If you exhale when pulling from the lengthened, you'll probably find yourself weaker and get less from it. So big inhales, bigger rib cage, more surface area for the muscle to grab onto on every single movement.
Nice.
But that's all I've got. Anything to add, sir? No? I got this. Hang on. Yes, sir. Okay. I think you do the exit since you did the intro. Far away.
Folks, Garamagiv for listening. If you made it this far, enjoy getting big, massive backs by implementing some of those cues. And we'll chat to you soon.
Slán go foil, Emmett.
Slán my car. Have a good one. Good luck with that flight.
See ya.
See you later, mate.